Hey, you guys. Okay. All right, you guys. Today I am studying. I am on lesson 13 for my. Hold on. Let me mute. Let me put my notifications on Do Not Disturb. Okay, so I'm on lesson 13 and my. Hold on. This thing is kind of. Actually, no. I'm going to leave this in here, but I'm on lesson 13 with my sterile processing technician course. So let's just get right into it. This lesson is about infection and decontamination. So I have my sterile processing book. I want to get the workbook, but this is just the technical manual. And I have my little folder with my paper so I can take notes. Yes, so I'm gonna read the learning objectives for today, but first I'm going to write down what I'm going to be learning about. Okay, I like to put if I'm studying in my bed, I just like to put a little pillow and then I put this on top so it's it's more comfortable. So lesson 13 is I usually take notes on my tablet, on my iPad, but I decided I wanted to write them down today. And if I need to scan this, I can. That's exactly what I'm going to start doing. I'm going to actually start writing my notes down because I feel like it just feels like I'm retaining the information better when I write it down. Hold on, what is going on with my hair? Okay, whatever. Infection. Hold on. I wrote the wrong thing. Being distracted. You see? This is about studying. We have to focus. We have to focus. Okay. I'm going to be doing Pomodoro study style. So, speaking of which, it is 12:26. So, at about, let's say 1 o'clock, we'll stop and take a 5-minute break. So, lesson 13 is on infection control, infection prevention, and decontamination. Ugh. Okay, so learning objectives. When you have completed this instruction, completed the instruction in this lesson, you will be trained to explain the role of sterile processing in preventing surgical infections in healthcare facilities, describe how to separate clean and dirty items in healthcare and the environmental requirements for maintaining separation, explain the chain of infection and how sterile processing technicians, oh my goodness, explain the chain of infection and how sterile processing technicians break the chain. Describe the 4 main goals of soiled item preparation and transport. Discuss the procedures and safety guidelines for transporting soiled items to sterile processing. Decontamination areas. Okay, those are learning objectives. That's what we'll be learning in today's lesson. Okay. Recall the healthcare associated infections, HIAs, are absent when patient is admitted to the healthcare facility, usually develop on or after day 3 of admission. The most common types of HAIs are bloodstream infections, pneumonia, urinary tract infections, or surgical site infections, SSI. An infection that that occurs after surgery in the part of the body where the surgery took place is termed surgical site infection. Germs can infect a surgical wound through various forms of contact, such as from the touch of contaminated caregiver or surgical instrument, through germs in the air, or through germs that are already on or in your body and then spread into the wound. The sterile processing department plays a significant role in reducing risk of HAIs and SSIs. First, you will explore infection present First, you will explore infection prevention, examining the principles of asepsis, personal hygiene, and attire, preventing the spread of bacteria and OSHA's bloodline pathogen standard. Then you focus on decontamination at the point of use, treatment, and during transport. Okay, so we call the healthcare associated with infections are absent when the patient is admitted to the healthcare facility and usually develop on or after the three day three of admission. The common are okay. An infection that occurs. Okay. I was just trying to make sure I understood what that was saying. Okay. So, reading assignment. Now we're going to start reading in our manual. It says begin discovering the steps to prevent infection by reading the following pages in your textbook. Chapter 5, pages 72 to 85, from the introduction through the conclusion. Okay, and then after it has some flashcards for us to work with. Okay, so this is our manual. This is the sterile processing technical manual. This also has a workbook that you can purchase with it as well. My school sent this to me, the one that I'm going to online right now. They ended up sending this to me, so I didn't have to pay for it, but I'm paying to go to the school, so I guess that's why it was free. But you can get these on Amazon, and you can get the workbook. I plan on getting the workbook just so I can get more practice before I take my exam. So let's start with page 72. Okay. The sterile processing technician plays a significant role in the prevention of surgical site infections and healthcare associated infection, HAIs. When the importance of this role is understood, technicians recognize that their work practices can mean the difference between a patient's successful surgery or a hospital stay and a negative outcome that could lead to infection or possible death. Okay, so I feel like I need to be writing something down. Okay, so surgical site infections are SSIs. SSI equals a surgical site infection. Okay. And healthcare associated infections are HAIs. HAIs. Healthcare associated infection. Yes. Healthcare associated infections. Okay. Now that we have a clear understanding of that, every step or process in the sterile processing department is carefully designed to prevent poor patient outcomes. Poor patient outcomes can be traced to many factors, including the condition of instruments, trays, and other medical devices processed in the sterile processing department. Okay. Okay. Sterile processing technicians support infection prevention by cleaning contaminated cleaning contaminated medical devices to make there's so many different things going on. Okay. Cleaning contaminated medical devices to make them safe for handling and prepare them for a biocidal process. What is a biocidal? It sounds like a bio acid burning process. That's what that sounds like to me. Cleaning contaminated medical devices to make them safe for handling and prepare them for a biocidal process. Inspecting instruments to help ensure they are safe and functional, assembling and packaging instruments in a manner that facilitates the chosen sterilization method and providing a barrier after sterilization, selecting and properly using the sterilization or high level disinfection HLD method for medical device, safely storing items until they are needed and delivering them using methods that protect the integrity of the sterile packages and items that have undergone disinfection. Understanding how to apply infection prevention principles in sterile processing, preventing cross contamination, and recognizing hand hygiene moments. Surgical site infection, SSI, an infection that occurs after surgery in the part of the body where the surgery took place, biocidal process or ability to kill or control the growth of living organisms. Yeah, I kind of had the idea of it. Chain of infection, the six-step process of an infection spreading from one host to the next. Okay, an infection that occurs after surgery in the part of the body. Okay. I is an infection that occurs after surgery. 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 I don't know why I wrote that like that. Okay. Hi, you guys. Okay, so moving on. Chain of infection is the sixth step infection. Chain of infection. Hold on. An infection spreading from one host to the next. Okay, moving on. Biocidal is the process or ability to kill or control the growth of living organisms. Process or ability to kill the growth of living kill of living organisms. Okay, next. While those tasks may appear easy, there are several steps to each process. Each requires attention to detail, understanding of specific protocols and process parameters, and understanding of each medical device's manufacturer instructions for the IFU, and dedication to processing each item exactly as stated. IFUs. Every medical device not processed according to the manufacturer's IFU has the potential to cause infection in both the patient and healthcare worker. cause for concern. In 2015, the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention (CDC) reported that approximately one of every 31 hospitalized patients, or 687,000, contracted an HAI. An HAI is a healthcare associated infection. Of those approximate 687,000, about 72 patients passed away as a result of their hospitalizations. Many of these infections may have been preventable. An SSI is an infection that occurs after surgery in the part of the body where the surgery took place. The CDC reports that approximately 310 major surgeries 310 million major surgeries are performed around the world each year, with 40 to 50 millions of procedures performed in the US. Each involves the use of medical devices or instruments that have contact with a patient's sterile tissues or mucous membranes. Infections is a major risk in all these procedures. Additionally, growing number of microorganisms are becoming resistant to antibiotics or are naturally difficult to control. Many of these microorganisms may be easily transferred to other surfaces and people. Controlling these microorganisms and preventing their transmission is the number one responsibility of sterile processing professionals. From 2014, the present endoscope reprocessing has garnered significant media attention because improper processing of endoscopes has led to infection and, in some cases, death. A January 2014 article published in the Seattle Times noted that more than 100 patients who had undergone colonoscopies at a Washington hospital had a Washington hospital between 2011 and 2013 were advised to be tested for HIV and hepatitis B and C after hospital discovered equipment used in procedures had not been properly cleaned. In 2015, the Los Angeles Times reported that two endoscope patients died and five more were infected by the carbapenem resistant enterobacteria. Oh my goodness, that's a very, very funny word. Superbug after being exposed to contaminated endoscopes. 179 more patients who underwent procedures between October 3rd, 2014 and January 2015 were also advised to be tested. In May 2016, nine newly reported cases involving the endoscope retrograde colon cholangiopancreatography endoscope, more commonly known as the duodenoscope, were linked to nine patient infections, resulting in three deaths at a hospital in Colorado. These incidents led to research into endoscope processing. Infection prevention principles and practices are based on knowledge of nature and characteristics of disease producing microorganisms. This includes an understanding about how they are transmitted in the healthcare environment and their place in the chain of infection. The way an item is used also plays a significant role in how it is processed. The more sterile processing technicians know about microorganisms, the better equipped they are to prevent the spread of these organisms. Ooh, my face and my nose is itchy. Oh goodness, I'm sleepy already. Okay. Figure 5.1 identifies the top HIAs causing pathogens as identified by the CDC. CDC top HIAs causing pathogens: Acinetobacter, Clostridium difficile, Enterobacteriaceae, I guess that's hepatitis. influenza, norovirus. Okay, it's just listing all the HAIs causing pathogens. Protection from pathogens. In the early 1970s, the CDC established the first practical recommendations for the isolation technique. The new recommendations categorized infections in communicable disease communicable diseases based upon the likely mode of transmission to protect healthcare staff and patients from infection diseases. Standard precautions were adopted. The basis of this to treat all human what? The basis of this is to treat all human blood, bodily fluids, and other potentially infectious materials as infectious. Oh my goodness, I'll be getting tongue tied. Hey, I recently launched a new study channel. I'd love for you to check it out. And if you enjoy the videos, please support me with a subscribe. Awesome. Thank you, Zavi Study. I don't mind subscribing. Okay. All right. So standard precautions drive the infections prevention and control procedures that sterile processing technicians must use because they are exposed to contaminated instrumentation and equipment. Failure to wear the appropriate personal protective equipment increases the individual's risk of occurring in an infection. The primary purpose of sterile processing division is to stop the spread of disease-producing microorganisms to patients from instruments and other medical devices. Sterile processing technicians must ensure that the items used in patient care, including instruments, utensils, supplies, and equipment, are made safe by other cleaning, disinfection, or sterilization. This chapter addresses how sterile processing technicians control the spread of microorganisms and prevent infection. Understanding asepsis in healthcare is an important piece of the basic knowledge required to work in the sterile processing division. Asbestos can be defined as the absence of microorganisms that cause disease. Aseptic techniques includes any activity or procedure that prevents infection or breaks the chain of infection. There are two types of aseptic techniques: medical asepsis, clean technique, procedures performed to reduce the number of microorganisms in order to minimize their spread. Examples include hand washing and equipment decontamination. Surgical asepsis, sterile technique, procedures to eliminate the presence of all microorganisms and or introduction of the microorganism to an area. Proper processing, storage, and techniques performed in the operating room OR prevent contamination of the sterile instruments and supplies. The absence of microorganisms that cause disease is asepsis. Any activity or procedure that prevents infection or breaks the chain of infection is aseptic technique. Asepsis medical clean technique procedures performed to reduce the number of microorganisms and minimize their speed. Asepsis surgical techniques clean activity and procedure. Okay. Surgical technician provides Surgical technician procedures performed to eliminate the presence of all microorganisms and or prevent the introduction of microorganisms to an area. Principle Principle 1. These are 5 basic principles of asepsis. Principle 1. Know what is dirty. Items that have been used for patient care are considered contaminated, and an item is either contaminated or not contaminated. For the sterile processing technician, the term dirty and contaminated mean the same thing. Microbial contamination cannot be seen with the naked eye. However, it can be present even when it is not seen. Examples of contaminated items include open surgical instrument trays, IV pumps, and suction machines that have been sitting in a patient's room. Principle 2, know what is clean. Cleanliness is the basis of aseptic technique. Mechanical cleaning removes soil and most microorganisms in any time. Any item that has been properly cleaned via manual or mechanical means is considered clean. If the item has been cleaned with a detergent, disinfectant, or thermal decontamination process, it is considered clean and decontaminated. The physical task of washing/cleaning removes soil and most microorganisms. Okay, next page. I think we have to read to page 85, but we're going to take a 5-minute break in about 10 minutes. Let me see everything that I have to read. Okay, well, that's not really nothing I have to read like that. Okay. Okay. So, principle 3, know what is sterile. Sterility is defined as the absence of all microbes. Sterility is impossible to see with the naked eye. One can look at a specific item and determine it's sterile. Principle 4, keep dirty, clean, and sterile areas separate. There must be separation between the three areas to allow all margin of safety. Clean or decontaminated items must not come in contact with dirty items. If they do, they must again be considered dirty. If sterile items come in contact with non-sterile items, they must also be considered non-sterile. Principle 5, remedy contamination immediately. When dirty, clean, and sterile areas or items have not been separated, the situation must be corrected immediately. One who observes the procedure has as much responsibility for maintaining proper aseptic technique as the person who what one who observes a procedure has a much responsibility for maintaining proper aseptic technique as the person who performs the procedure. There are times when only a sterile processing technician will know or suspect that something may be contaminated, even though processing the item may result in more work. This must be done to protect the patient. A careless attitude may lead to an increased risk of infection, so sterile processing technicians must always be aware of their actions. By adhering to the principles of asepsis, the risk of infection will be reduced for patients and the facility's employees. The responsibility of sterile processing technicians to provide the safe items for use should never be underestimated or compromised. Sterile processing technicians must assume several important responsibilities in their facilities' infections prevention and control efforts. The sterile processing department's prevention and control goals are to eliminate or destroy all potentially infectious contaminants, present or reusable instruments and equipment, safely distribute reusable and single use items required for delivery or patient care, establish and enforce standards for decontamination, disinfection, sterilization, and various healthcare settings. The importance of these responsibilities is clear. The use of medical devices that have not been properly handled, disinfected, or sterilized can cause infections in patients and staff. Sterile processing technicians are responsible for providing safe items that support good patient outcomes. Personal hygiene and attire. Preventing the spread of microorganisms and maintaining appropriate environments for clean and sterile items requires good self management skills, hygiene, and adherence to dress code protocols are critical components of infection prevention in the sterile processing department. Hand hygiene is a term that means either hand washing or using an approved antiseptic hand rub such as alcohol based product. Hand hygiene is considered the single most important factor in reducing infections. Hand washing refers to the use of soap, water, friction to wash one's hands. Ooh, my nose is itching. Ugh. Sorry, guys. My nose is itching so bad. Whew. Okay. Okay, that's just walking you through hand washing. Um, Sterile processing departments should be equipped with hand washing sinks conveniently located for easy access. Sterile processing technicians should wash their hands only in dedicated hand washing sinks, not in sinks used for decontamination purposes. Because fingernails harbor microorganisms, they should be kept clean and not extend beyond the fingertips. Long nails increase the risk of tearing gloves. Fingernail polish should not be worn in the sterile processing department because nail polish may chip and fall into an instrument set. Artificial nails should not be worn in the sterile processing department because they also harbor microorganisms and may detach and fall into a tray unnoticed. Infection prevention begins at home. Personal hygiene is important for the prevention of infections. Bathing and shampooing regularly, wearing clean clothing, and practicing good hand hygiene prepares sterile processing technicians to continue this practice in the healthcare facility. Okay, we got 6 more minutes, you guys. Personnel with open or weeping wounds or excessive skin irritations should refrain. Personnel with open or weeping wounds or excessive skin irritation should refrain from handling any patient care equipment until the condition is resolved or medically evaluated. Hand hygiene. Hand hygiene should be performed prior to starting work, upon entering or leaving the work areas, before and after eating, using the restroom, or whenever hands become soiled or contaminated. Hand hygiene should also be done before handling instruments and medical devices for sterilization packaging. Contaminants, oils, and soils can be transferred to instruments from the hands or personal compromising the sterilization process. Infection prevention and control experts recommend that hands be washed immediately and thoroughly if they become soiled with blood, bodily fluid, secretions, or excretions. After contact with contaminated items without visible soil or after gloves are removed, an alcohol based hand rub should be used according to the manufacturer's recommendations. Approved non oil based hand lotions may be used after hand washing to keep the skin healthy to minimize skin irritation and excessive drying. Most of the sterile processing areas considered semi-restricted, and sterile processing technicians must wear clean scrub attire provided by the launderer through the healthcare facility. The Association of Perioperative Registered Nurses, AORN, states home laundering is not monitored for quality, consistency, or safety. Home washing machines may not have the adjustable parameters and controls required to achieve the necessary thermal measures, mechanical measures, or chemical measures. The alkalinity of the water, soap, or detergent to reduce the microbial levels in soiled scrub attire. Healthcare facility laundering protects the employee and other staff members, patients, family members, and the public. Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm getting tongue tied. Attire should be clean and not worn outside the facility. Technicians should change out of their street clothing and shoes. Those worn at home and into scrubs and shoes kept at the facility. Usually there will be a locker space for personal belongings at the end of the workday. Scrubs must be left at the facility's laundry, protecting employees from infecting anyone at home or in the community. Jewelry, including necklaces, watches, and rings, should not be worn in the department because it can harbor microorganisms, and some jewelry items may have accidentally fallen into the instrument sets. Lanyards, if used, should be left at the facility and cleaned on a regular basis. Personal electronics, including cell phones, should what? Should scrub. What the heck? Oh. Should be stored and kept out of sterile processing areas. I'm like, where's the rest of the sentence? It's on the other side of the page. should be stored and kept out of sterile processing areas. Personal devices can harbor microorganisms and should be cleaned regularly. Other personal items such as fuzzy pins, stuffed animals, and artificial plants should be left at home. Backpacks and purses should also not be brought into the work area. These items are difficult to clean and like cellular devices harbor microorganisms. Basic attire should be worn in every area of the sterile processing department and by everyone working in or visiting the department. This includes anyone entering to clean or perform repairs. Scrub attire should always be donned, and I guess that means put on just prior to starting work, and doffed. Donned Donned is put on and doffed is removed before leaving work. On and off are in both of those words. Okay. A disposable bouffant type head covering should be worn in all areas of the department. Head covers should cover all hair except eyelashes and eyebrows. Reusable head covers, if allowed in the facility, should be covered with a bouffant cover to prevent contaminating the area with outside bacteria or with bacteria that may have multiplied on the caps due to improper cleaning. Skull type caps are no longer suggested for the use because they do not always fully cover head hair. Beards and mustaches should be covered with an improved beard cover to prevent facial hair from shedding onto the items being processed. Sturdy closed-toe shoes with non-skitch soles should be worn in the department. Shoes should be able to protect the feet from items that may inadvertently fall from the work areas. It is a good practice to have shoes dedicated to the area and not worn out of the facility. A cover slash gown lab A cover gown slash lab coat may be used to protect the scrub attire when leaving the departments for another area. Oh my gosh, my phone's gonna die in a second. Okay. 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 It is 1:01, so we're gonna take a 5-minute break. And honestly, I'm probably gonna have to come back and study with you guys at a different time. I didn't realize that my phone was about to die. But I appreciate you guys for studying with me. Okay. I'm gonna probably take about, I might come back on here later and take my quiz with you guys, but I have to charge my phone. I can't be on live if my phone is dead. So, I feel like this is a good stopping point since, it's break time, I guess you could say. But other than that, I thank you guys for watching. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe, and turn on post notification bell so you never miss when I go live and we can chat in real time. But anyway, thank you so much. And let me know in the comments if you guys like the study streams. Let me know. I'm trying to see. It's something new that I'm trying out. And if you guys like it, I'll keep doing it. If you guys are like, I may still do it, but I won't put as much effort into it, if that makes sense. But other than that, thank you guys for watching, and I'll be back.